the frequency.
Good morning, Boulder County. It's Wednesday, October 1st. I'm your host, Shay Castle, and this is The Frequency, a weekly podcast covering the news, events, and voices shaping the Boulder Valley, quickly and calmly. If that's a mission you can get behind, consider supporting us. We're on Patreon at Boulder Frequency Pod. We're also looking for sponsors. Your ad can go here and help fund local journalism. Today, we're talking homelessness, one of Boulder's most persistent problems. Let us know what you want us to cover in a future episode. Email us at boulderfrequency@gmail.com. But first, the headlines. Xcel Energy will pay a $640 million legal settlement related to the 2021 Marshall Fire, the state's costliest. That was announced last week by the company and Boulder County's district attorney. An investigation revealed two likely causes of the blaze that burned over 1,000 homes and structures in Boulder County. One of the causes was an Xcel power line. The utility provider said in a statement that the settlement is not an admission of guilt. The announcement came one day before a civil trial brought by homeowners, businesses, and insurance companies was set to begin. The city of Boulder released an evaluation of its guaranteed income project, Elevate Boulder. For 2 years, low-income residents in the program received $500 per month to use as they chose. In the final evaluation, participants reported lower stress due to finances, improved mental and physical health, investments in education and career advancement, and an easier time paying for housing, food, and utilities. Local journalist Rosanna Longo-Better will be bringing participant stories to The Frequency starting October 22nd, so mark your calendars. October 5th to 11th is Banned Books Week. Celebrate the freedom of information and stop by your local library to scoop up a taboo book and learn more about the most frequently targeted titles. Libraries in Longmont, Boulder, and CU are participating. October 3rd to 12th is also Restaurant Week in Longmont. Head to one of 34 participating eateries for deals and special menus. And now, homelessness. When we asked our test audience what they wanted to hear about, one answer dominated: homelessness. It's a big topic, but let's start by defining what we mean when we say homelessness. Often, what we're really talking about is visible or unsheltered homelessness, what some folks call rough sleeping. That's people living in parks, under highways and bridges, or in their cars. That's just one of the many ways that people can be unhoused. On any given day, most people experiencing homelessness are actually staying with friends or family. But it's the people on the streets that tend to dominate conversations about homelessness, because those are the people we see.
Correct. It's not the largest percentage by far, but yes, the most visible, definitely.
That's Megan Newton, a policy advisor for the city of Boulder, explaining why a recent consultant's report focused on unsheltered homelessness specifically, when other groups in Boulder County are losing housing at a greater rate, including families with children and older adults. The report said it would take $11 million each year on top of current spending to end unsheltered homelessness by 2028. That hasn't been adopted as an official or formal goal, Newton said. It was meant to illustrate the scope of the problem and what it would take to solve it.
Well, I feel like we've often hear, what do we need to do? What's it going to take? And this kind of puts a number to what it would take in a 3-year span. Of course, that's not the goal at this point because we don't have the resources to put $11 million into the system immediately, but it just kind of shows what resources it would take in order to make that level of impact.
Boulder County's system for dealing with homelessness is called coordinated entry. It involves screening people experiencing homelessness and then deciding what solutions would fit each individual. It could be buying them a bus or plane ticket to somewhere else, maybe paying to fix their car so they can keep traveling, or it could mean placing them on a waiting list for housing that comes with supportive services like case management. The coordinated entry system has been in place for 8 years. It was set up in October 2017. Since that time, over 2,000 people have been housed, Newton said.
We're over 2,000 folks housed since we started this strategy. And so for each one of those people, there's a certain significant story to tell. So those impacts are immeasurable. It's great.
That may be a surprise to some residents who continue to see people living in public spaces. The pressures that lead people to lose their housing are increasing faster than the resources we have to prevent and solve them. For instance, housing costs are the number one predictor of someone becoming unhoused. An often quoted national study found that every $100 increase in rent leads to a 9% increase in homelessness in a given area. Rents in Boulder County have increased nearly $700 per month on average since 2017. City staff told elected officials in August that there is a, quote, consistent inflow of 1,250 individuals entering homelessness each year in the city of Boulder alone.
It is an inflow versus outflow, in the simplest terms. I think as far as explaining it to people, it is hard because people want such a simple answer and a simple solution, and it's just not a simple problem. There's a number of things upstream that people fall through before they get to homelessness.
Those upstream safety nets may be getting weaker in the future.
When you talk about like the kind of perfect storm, if you will, like we're kind of in that space.
That's Heidi Grove, manager of Boulder County's Division of Homeless Systems and Coordinated Response. The perfect storm Grove references is a mix of federal policy changes and multiple budget crunches at the federal, state, and local levels. The biggest change is the end of COVID-era funding for things like housing vouchers, which help low-income people afford rent. That could result in fewer people getting housed or local governments having to spend more to keep the same amount of vouchers in circulation. There's also money from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, that cities and county use to hire staff and bolster social services. By January 2027, that money will all be gone.
It's too soon to understand exactly what those impacts are going to be. Like, are we going back to 2019, what we had available? Because COVID was such a huge influx of funding that we had not previously seen.
Grove says Boulder County budgeted its ARPA money fairly well and is actively looking for grants and other revenue to replace any programs or services paid for with COVID recovery dollars. But we may also be at the mercy of other communities and how they handled their ARPA money. Because of the region's interconnectedness, if places like Denver don't have a solid plan for funding housing, shelters, and services past 2026, that could put a strain on their systems and result in more people on the streets of Boulder County, Grove said. There's also the possibility that Boulder County and Colorado could lose federal funding due to new policies that conflict with local values and research-based solutions. Conservatives have already challenged the Housing First policy, in which people are given housing without having to get sober or be employed first. Despite the decade-plus of solid research supporting Housing First, Grove said Boulder County has already stopped using the term. Although the strategy remains the same, it's now referred to as housing and supports. When asked if it's fair to say that these multitude of factors will impact Boulder's progress on homelessness, Newton and Grove take two different views. Here's Grove.
Again, it's too early to determine. We are still housing people. People are still exiting homelessness into permanent housing. We are really focused right now on housing retention so that we don't have folks returning to homelessness. So those are the things that we're really focusing on right now, and also monitoring as new changes and shifts in policy. We've been here before. We've done it, in the past. And so it's really just about being nimble and flexible and creative in the landscape that we're in.
And here's Newton.
The reality is happening right now is permanent supportive housing vouchers are being frozen. The Housing Authority did not open their lottery this year in order to be able to catch up as far as funding goes. We've seen some applications come out from HUD recently that are requiring that the communities that these projects operate in agree with certain federal policies. If we were just standing still, this would be a great jumping off point, but we're also kind of like fighting to just stay where we're at a little bit.
I'm sure we'll revisit this issue from many angles in future episodes. But for now, I want to draw your attention to what wasn't included in this piece, or rather, who. Unhoused people themselves are often left out of coverage of homelessness. There are a number of reasons for this, some more defensible than others. As for this podcast, we'll do our best in future episodes to include as many voices as possible of people who are experiencing or who have experienced homelessness. But it's good practice for you as the consumer to notice what groups are routinely left out of the conversation and to think about how that influences the stories that get told. Join us next week when Frequency co-founder Jeff Rosick interviews a mystery guest. Before you go, here's one more thing.
Mr. Speaker, our president has on occasion said that those who were sleeping in the streets were doing so by choice. In a New York Times article, which I submit herewith and ask unanimous consent that it may appear in the record following my remarks, the sad story is told of a woman, nameless she happened to be, who was a part of a homeless group in New York City, driven out of the Union Station when the station closed at 1:30 by the police. She was found in the 17-degree cold next morning dead, leaning up against the wall. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, that in our rich America, situations like that occur. I think we need shelter housing, and I'm hopeful that this House will initiate legislation that will set the pattern upon which we can begin to erect in America some shelter that affords protection and warmth for the homeless of this land.